Hey, what's going on, everybody? Boilon here, and welcome to what I'm going to call the maiden voyage video for the Marvel Snap Boilon channel, because you may notice that this is under a new channel banner called Boilon Snap. That's going to be dedicated specifically to Marvel Snap videos, separated out from my main channel, which covers Marvel Strike Force. So if you're here from that channel, welcome. If you're new, also welcome. This is going to be specifically to Marvel Snap videos, so hopefully you can help me out by hitting that like and subscribe button down below to get us started on our way. Now, this video specifically, I want to talk about one of the more recent features that we have in the game, which is obviously the collection system, or the collector's token system. And I want to talk about some of the cards that I'm encountering in Pool 3 that are really frustrating me, but also that are cards that you probably should or want to have, because they're just, I'm seeing them all the time. And this is not going to be an exhaustive list by any means, but I want to go over probably at least a dozen cards here that I'm seeing almost all the time in my Pool 3 matches, and cards that I don't have actually at this point and why I want to get them. And those are the ones that I'm going to be, watching out for. As you can see on the top of the screen, I'm at collection level 971 and rising slowly. So Pool 3 does start at 600 onwards, and that's where I want to kind of take a look at. So this video is primarily on Pool 3 cards, and the cards that either I really want to have or the ones that I'm going to be looking out for and the ones that you should be careful of. So if you're ready to go, let's boil this down. And if you haven't seen this photo here from Snap News, this is a real good collage of all of the cards that are in collection pool number 3. So these are going to be some of the cards that we're going to be taking a look at. Now, pool 3 is very large, and obviously you have to go through pool 1 and 2 and collect all those cards before you can get into pool 3. Now, we do have pool 4 and 5, or series 4 and 5 that they call it sometimes, but realistically those are pretty rare, and we're not going to be talking about those specifically in this video here. And we're not going to be talking about all of these cards either, because there's quite a few of them. But there are some in particular that, has really stuck out at me. Both cards that I'm seeing very frequently, or cards that I think that you should have that are very important to those kinds of decks. So, not all of these are, what I would call S-tier kind of cards, but there are a few of them that definitely pop up more than I would like, and why I started countering specifically around certain cards. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. But there's a lot of them, right? You can see that there's like, 10 per row here, 30, 40, 50, 60, like 70 something cards here. There's a lot of pool 3 cards, and you're not always going to get them. If you saw, with I probably only have like a quarter of these cards. I'm just guessing. I haven't actually counted. But I tend to get one maybe every 30 collection levels, because when I'm opening up the collector's cache, I get them maybe like once every 3 caches, maybe once every 2 caches. It depends on my luck. So those collector's tokens that we have now are a way that you might be able to pick up some of these cards if you're looking to get them, because they may really turn the tide in your matches. And we're going to get started now. I do want to talk about a website that I've been using a lot to look up decks and look up cards. It's called snap.fan. It's a very great website that you can use to browse. Again, you can deck build, you can look at other people's deck suggestions, other cards, and you can also filter, actually. But if you don't know which cards are from which pool, you can actually filter this by pool 1, pool 2, pool 3, and even the new ones actually that are pool 4 and 5. So that's pretty cool too. So I can add that to there, and then I can apply the filter. And if you guys are unaware of the new cards, if you didn't watch the video about the new update that came recently, then you can see them all here, and it's a pretty good website. So there's actually only 16 total new cards in pool 4 and 5, but again, not really the topic of today's video. We'll be able to talk about that in a later video or down the line when I get some of these, as well as what I wanted. Oftentimes it's when I've been either coming up against them or when I've been using them personally is when I feel like talking about these sorts of videos. So, and the first card that I want to talk about in this sort of list of cards that we're going to be, looking over is Patriot. Now, I have really been seeing him quite frequently, and he's really, really popular right now, also in conjunction with Kazar. So not always, but you will quite often see either 2 versions of Patriot's deck, or maybe in the same one, where Patriot's synergizing with with Kazar, especially with Squirrel Girl and some of these other 1 energy cost cards, but they're summons or whatever, or the rocks, you know, with Debris, is it? Who pushes out the rocks everywhere. And so there's other ways that you can use to synergize with Patriot to get these characters stronger, and it's just a little bit crazy. Now, it also gives Patriot a way to buff up a lot of these cards that you have in your deck that largely are useless. So, you know, Cyclops, Misty Knight, all these other unpowered no ability cards that nobody ever really used, and so you can't really get to use them until you get Patriot, but it really does power them up. So, you know, Thing, for example, who has 6 strength, would turn into 8, and so there's a huge buffing going on with this one. And so I've seen him played a lot more these days. Maybe it's just because I'm in pool 3, but a lot of people are putting him in his deck, and I'm seeing it a lot with Patriot and Kazar together. So yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm seeing a lot of 1 cost cards that are being not only bumped by Patriot, but also being bumped by Kazar as well. So something to watch out for. Kind of wish I had him just so I could play around with him and see how other people do with it. So the one that I do want to talk about that has been prevalent almost everywhere, I'm seeing this card so often that I honestly just threw Cosmo into my deck specifically for this. It is Wong. He is everywhere. Wong is everywhere. Every other game I'm seeing a Wong. Okay, because he's essentially a lower energy cost version of Odin with less strength. Now, he is 4 energy cost, which means you're typically going to be playing him on turn 4, unless you have some other way to play him down early on. And that means that you're going to be able to play cards on turn 5 and 6 that kind of just synergize with him. So it's kind of a cycle. So assuming that you pull him when you need to, you play him on turn 4, you're playing something else on turn 5, and then you're playing something else on turn 6, and it really just snowballs, like, quite heavily. Some other cards that I'm seeing that use quite often with Wong, it says here on the side here, there's more than just that, but I'm seeing definitely, you're seeing Black Panther is being used in here. I'm seeing White Tiger. You can use some characters that aren't pool 3. White Tiger, Ironheart, that triggers the on reveal a second time. And then if you take, for example, for a long time when Black Panther just came out, I was seeing Wong, Black Panther, and Arnim Zola. And that's why I need to talk about this, because it's absolutely crazy in combination with Wong. So if you play Black Panther, is probably the biggest one. So on reveal, destroy a random friendly card and add copies of it to the other location. So you want to have a relatively free board, but then if you play Wong and you play Black Panther and then you play Arnim Zola, he's actually taking both Wong and Black Panther because he's doing it twice, and he's ripping them and placing them in the other locations. And Black Panther's already been powered up once from Wong being played there, and then he's doing it again. So the power is just out of this world. 4, 5, and 6 on turns 4, 5, and 6. If you don't shut this down with Cosmo or something, you're pretty much screwed in your other locations, because that's usually how it ends up happening. Let me know in the comments down below, though. I've seen this combo so frequently that it really starts to piss me off and grind my gears that I started throwing Cosmo in almost every other deck just in case this shows up. But the Wong, Arnim Zola, or Wong something, and then Arnim Zola combo is very, very powerful, and it's just a little bit crazy. And that's why Arnim Zola only has 0 strength, because it can get a bit absurd when you're using this combo with other cards. Another card that's not related to Wong that I want to bring up, though, is Venom, a very cool and fun card. I wish I kind of had him. So he is allows you to basically eat all of your other cards at that location, and it adds the power to Venom. Very good for a destroy deck, you know, an additional way to destroy cards as well, such as Deadpool and some of the other cards that are around that you're going to need to do this with. Obviously, the typical destroy decks that you're running with Nova and, I don't know, maybe Sabretooth and Wolverine and things like this that you're also playing. It just gives you another card to be able to destroy on top of Carnage and Deathlock, which are the primary ones, and Killmonger sometimes as a primary method of being able to destroy cards. Venom is a pool 3 card as well, and he is someone that I really want to have on my roster. I don't have him yet. All the ones that I mentioned so far I don't have yet. These are just cards that I've seen quite frequently in matches that I kind of wish I did have. So yeah, Venom's on that list as well. Then the next one I want to talk about is Hela. So she's a 6/6 card. On reveal, play all cards that you discarded from your hand to random locations. So normally when I start seeing a discard deck and when they start discarding, quite rapidly, then I'm kind of thinking that, that I'm going to start to see Hela being played at some point. What's funny though is, of course, there's been instances where I have seen Hela been discarded herself, and so that's kind of an issue. But if you have someone like Ghost Rider, who's not necessarily on this list, but he's also a pool 3 card, you might have the ability to pull Hela back from your discard pile if that accidentally happens. So Hela's a very powerful card. I have seen her fairly frequently, not as frequently as the Wong combos or Patriot right now, but this is someone that's really strong and can really flip the tables on turn 6, without even thinking. So Hela is a fun one that I'll be looking out for, and possibly using my collector's tokens on. I think Wong is definitely going to be a collector token buy. I think that's something that everyone should have in their deck, because whether or not you have a full set of pool 3 cards or not, you're going to be able to find other cards in your pool 1 and 2 that you'll be able to use alongside this. So very, very powerful. Now, next up on this list is going to be Dracula. So I've been seeing this. This is sort of part of the discard deck as well, but this is a little bit different. I have often seen Dracula in conjunction with Apocalypse. So not necessarily with, Hela or anything like that, but I've seen in conjunction with Apocalypse. So when you have Apocalypse last in your hand, and then basically Dracula takes that and discards Apocalypse, and then and then every time Apocalypse gets discarded, he gets +4 power, right? So if you're discarding him a bunch of times and he's left in your hand and that gets chosen, it actually gets an additional +4 power as well on top of that. So it can make Dracula's number pretty crazy. And so that's typically what you see in conjunction with on the synergy side, in my opinion. That's where I've been seeing him in. So very fun card to play. And he may also be, I really like the discard decks in general. So Dracula could be another card that I'm going to be looking for in terms of characters that I want to have on the collector's token side of things. Now, Wave. This one's interesting. So Wave, on reveal, next turn, cards in both players' hand cost 4. If you can get this early on, this allows you, and maybe your opponent as well, and so this is a little bit of a risky move, but I've seen some combinations where you can play, some really high-powered cards, or, for example, I don't have Death on here, but Death, who often has a really huge value, like a power cost of 9, right? And if you don't destroy cards, you can't play Death. But if you play Wave, you can actually play Death at a lower rate. So if you use Wave in a destroyed deck, then Death gets actually moved to 4 cost, but then any cards that you've destroyed at that point also reduces her amount. So what I've seen is I've seen Wave been played on turn 5, and then I've actually seen that on turn 6, you can take a 6 cost card, then cost 4, and then Death actually costs less than 4, normally, less than 2, and therefore you can often get her played for free. So this is a really interesting strategy by using Wave to play other cards, and I think that this one's a really good one to watch out for. Would I spend my collector's tokens on this one, though? I don't know. This is a very sort of I haven't, a lot of these cards I haven't had any personal gameplay experience with that I've not actually used myself, but I know for a fact that, Wong is definitely number 1 on my list. But Wave is a card that you should watch out for, and something that you might want to consider playing, because there's a lot of great synergy that you could use with Wave as well, using other high-cost cards. Now, I have to talk about Destroyer. Destroyer is like the 6 energy cost card from Hell, because he's stronger on the surface as well than cards like the Hulk. But there's a lot of ways that you can stop him from using his mechanic. So on reveal, destroy your other cards. And on the surface, this sounds really bad. But there's lots of ways that you can actually stop your own Destroyer from doing that. One is with armor. You can use that to protect another location. You can also use Cosmo. So if you have Cosmo in your own deck and you intentionally play Cosmo, then when you play Destroyer there on turn 6, he's not going to trigger his effect, and therefore you're going to get a really high value, 15 strength card, which can really, people just like, oh my god, just out of nowhere. So this is a really good one. You can use it in a destroyed deck, but I don't think it's completely necessary. And I think like the bigger thing here is just to make sure that you get a really high powered card out when you need to do that as well. So yeah, I've been seeing him a fair bit, and I just wanted to point him out. And one other one that I really want to talk about This isn't one that I think is super overpowered, but this is one that, I want to play with personally because I think she's really fun in a move deck. Now, this is Captain Marvel. At the end of the game, move to a location that wins you the game if possible. She is a 5 energy cost card with 6 strength. So the numbers aren't super crazy, but because she'll move, if it's possible to win the game because you screwed up on your turn 6 or you just didn't play in the right spot, but if somehow she can win you the game, then she will. And I've actually seen in multiple cases where I played against her and I, thought I was a shoe-in and it turns out that was played and boom, I lost. And so this is more something that I want to play with. I do like move decks in general. Move decks are a little bit more complicated to play and a little bit easier to counter, I think. But with the right cards and the right sort of locations, this can get off to a big hit. And I just kind of really like Captain Marvel, so I kind of wanted to add her into this list as well. Like I said, the pool 3 is quite large. There's cards in here that I've obviously not talked about. There's lots of good ones in here. There's some that are maybe not as good, but by and large, though, there's a lot in here that people can use, and every time you get a new pool 3 card, that's going to help you get further and further into what you want to get for your game. And I want to touch on this very quickly, and I want to touch on some of the cards that I've got through my game. And I'm going to start back up at 600. So I know it's really far down the list at this point, but how many cards for pool 3 do I have? Well, I think I started with getting, who was my first one? Jane Foster? No, Black Widow. 500, so my bad. Actually, I thought the collection 3 started at 600, but no. It was Omega Red, I think. Omega Red was my first pool 3 card. Debris, Kingpin Magic, Adam Warlock, Black Widow, Jane Foster Thor, Dagger, Invisible Woman, Lockjaw, Moon Knight, Daredevil. I really do like playing Daredevil right now. Green Goblin, he's fun too. Electro, haven't done too much with him. Mr. Negative, Cerebro, Spider-Man, Wasp, Colleen Wing, fun for the discard deck as well. Juggernaut, a lot of fun here, and I'll have a video out on Juggernaut specifically and some use for him. Ronin, Drax the Destroyer, Deadpool, you took me a while to get him. Regular Thor, of course, OG Thor, and then there was a huge gap that I didn't get anything. And then Gambit, Goose, Maximus, and we're coming near the end here, and Baron Mordo and Taskmaster as my most recent cards. You can see that there was a big gap, and sometimes I would get collector's caches and not get anything, but I'm really excited for more videos on Pool 3, especially as I unlock them and kind of play around with them a little bit more, because I don't have a ton of Pool 3 experience, but I'm hoping we can take this journey together, especially as people from Global Launch who get closer into Pool 3 or are already in Pool 3, and there'll be more of this to come. So yeah, welcome guys to the Boilon Snap channel once again, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button down below, because that would really help push this channel a little bit forward, and so that we can get more of these sort of Marvel Snap videos out. And let me know what kind of things that you would like to see on the channel as well, and also don't forget to join up on the Discord. I have a very big Discord from Marvel Strike Force. We also have a Marvel Snap section of the Discord channel where we talk all about Marvel Snap too, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well. So let me know in the comments down below what you think about the game so far with the recent update as well, and your experiences with some Pool 3 cards, good or bad. That's the end of the video, everyone, and until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.